everybody, and thanks for joining me today. So I've pretty much finished that first big pink flower, and today I'm working below it, sort of the part that's below between the two flowers. There's some leaves and some background here, so that's what I'm working on. I did sort of one petal from the second flower and then doing the stuff that's below. So it's going to be a lot fewer pinks today and a lot more navy blues and dark colors like that. And it's kind of a mix of blocks and confetti, so we will see what I get. So you can see there's a bigger block here because there's not very many threads parked there, and then more confetti as you go further over to the left-hand side. I said not as much pinks, but there will be a little bit. It's working right up against those flower petals. So there is a little bit of it. And let me see, I believe I am about to pass, or actually I think I already passed it, where I have 17,000 stitches left. Well, less than 17,000 now. Yeah, just under 50 stitches past that. And I believe my goal this month was to reach 290,000 total, and I'm about to get there over the next probably half an hour. As I said, I set my estimate a little lower this month because the Olympics were on, so I was busy watching that. It has been an exciting competition, that is for sure. Some of the wild card people did really well. It's been, yeah, like I said, fun. And it has been still very nice. A lot of the snow melted. We still have some, but most of the roads are bare, which is really nice for driving. When they plow it, they don't get it right down to the concrete. There's usually still a little bit of ice and snow on the road that has to melt, but there's been enough sun and warm enough temperatures that it has. Half the sidewalks are clear because depending on which side of the street that they're on. For instance, our neighbors' front yards always end up being free of snow sooner than ours because they get more direct sunlight during the day. Our house, of course, faces the opposite direction, so our roof line blocks most of it on the porch. And I discovered that once when I bought a big pot of mixed flowers from a fundraiser at my kid's school when he was in elementary school, and I put it on my front doorstep and they died. There wasn't enough direct sunlight. There was sunlight, but not enough of it during the day. I had to move. They started dying, and I had to move them to a different spot where they got a lot more sun. Wasn't as aesthetically pleasing for decoration, but I suppose having dead flowers wouldn't be either, would it? So just sort of, like I said, finishing up the edges of this one petal here, and then I'm going to, I could continue to grow that way, but instead I'm just going to fill this in, and then I will probably move the whole frame over again and continue on that way. I started this month at 286,000 and a bit. So like I said, 290,000 would be around that 4,000 mark. That is not going to be a problem. I think I have 2 more sessions after this one this month. I could continue stitching, but I'm filming and it won't show up on the camera very well, so I'm going to just leave it. So coming down to this kind of corner here. Just gonna see what I have already parked. All right, that's not very long, so I will use a separate leftover piece for that little one there in the corner. I have a few of those. I was thinking to hit 95% by the end of the month, and I think that is still feasible, because that's about, I'd say, around 1,500 stitches away. But I've been doing more knitting this month while watching the figure skating, so oh, I ran into a bit of trouble with so I finished knitting all the squares for the log cabin variation blanket I'm making, and then I went to work on my sunburst one, and I realized after I was about 20 rounds in that I messed up one of the decrease lines early on. So it didn't line up properly. I did it one stitch away from where I should have done it, and I cannot leave it. That drives me mad. So I did it where you just drop the affected stitches down and then re-knit them with the strands. I actually have a video on my channel of it. If I remember, I'll link to it. And actually, I demonstrated it on a blanket I was making with the same pattern. And so it's a bit fiddly and frustrating, but it is less trouble than ripping out everything and starting again, because usually that's, I didn't realize until I learned how to drop things down to fix them. I didn't know that you could. And so if you found a mistake 10 rows back, you had to pull out your needles and rip out all 10 rows. And this one that I learned, it's, like I said, it's a bit fiddly and stuff, but you only have to fix the stitches that are affected. And, but, oh, it was right where I had made a color change too. So part of the decrease was done with the one strand, and then the rest of it was done with the second one that was another color. So undoing that and fixing it was a nightmare. And it got so frustrating, I just about decided to say, forget it, let's start the whole thing over again. But I said, okay, I'll give it one more try, because I kept on twisting it and the decrease didn't look right. And so I said I'd give it one more try, and I think on like the 4th or 5th try I got it. I was glad I persevered. But it is all fixed now. I swear, I think it happens once per blanket, just about. I have to fix it. Because the way it comes out from the center, the decrease lines kind of form these ribs or spokes, like on a wheel almost. And if you are doing it and then you did one decrease wrong, the whole thing gets wonky and it doesn't look right. And it would be all I could see forever. Others might not notice it, but that's all I would be able to see. There was one, I made this little blanket for my niece, and I realized after it was all done and ends woven in and blocked and everything that I had messed up and my seed stitch, so it's knits and purls but opposite each other instead of sort of above each other, like, so it's like if you were doing ribbing but it's broken up, so it looks almost like a checkerboard kind of, and it makes these little bumps. And I realized after it was all done that I had made a mistake on one of them, so it had a little line of purl stitches in one little spot on the edge, and I realized after it was all, like I said, completed and ends done and everything, and so I just said, you know what, I'll leave it. I'll call it personalization. Ooh. Ooh, oh, okay, I thought it didn't. Sometimes you mark it as done, but it doesn't always register perfectly. If you then move the screen around a little bit, that usually fixes it. So I think this is like leaf here, and then I think there's some more purple flower down at the very bottom. We'll see if I get to that or not. Really depends. But as I said, I've been enjoying the warmer weather, but I know it's not going to last. They're calling for us to get 5 to 10 centimeters of snow later this month. 10 centimeters is around 4 inches for you that don't use centimeters, and it's going to be about -20, which for this time of year is not bad. I've had previous years when it was -30, -40 at this time of the year, so I won't complain about a low of -20. We'll see. That's looking forward towards the end of the month. That looks like as cold as it's going to get. So usually we have at least 2 cold snaps, one in January and one in February, but this year we might get lucky. Okay, so there is another strand of this up above, and yeah, it's long enough. So this one I'm going to carry there. Yeah, they're both fairly long. I will leave them both attached for now. Sometimes I end up with more thread than I have stitches to do with multiple threads, in which case I'll just end one of them off. Okie dokie. Got an extra day off work this week, so that was kind of nice. My boss is going to, him and his wife are going to visit their grown son who lives in another province. Okay, so I'm going to park this one down here. I'm going to unthread it for now because I'm not sure when I'll get back to it. So today, kind of working up and down this diagonal in kind of skinny little strips because that's how the color's going. I'll do some bigger blocks when I get to this navy section here. The only thing is I do have to work the day after we get back from our break, which means it will be crazy busy. We had a stat holiday kind of fall in the middle of a week once, and I was working the next day, so it was extremely busy that day. But it does make the time go pretty fast. Let's just jump from one thing to the next, and by the time I had a chance to look at the clock, it was like, oh, it's going to be lunchtime in 15 minutes. Nice. We take a nice long lunch. So 2 hours, so that's nice. I get to go home, eat, do some stitching usually. So before I have to go back to work. Ooh. Oh my. Pardon me. Oh. Just remembered I have to text my husband about something. He wanted me to remind him about something, and if I don't do it now, I'm gonna forget. There was a reminder in my phone and all that, but yeah. Even so, I'll make the mistake of sort of closing the reminder, and then it's gone again, and then my brain doesn't hold on to it, and it's not good. So when I remember, I'd better act on it right then, or it's going to disappear again. Oh, I've got a palindrome right now of numbers. 94.49. That's funny. Talking of palindromes, so I was watching the, what was it? I think it was by Stars, Da Vinci's Demons. And he was known for, he could write in mirror writing. So he could write with each hand and do a perfect mirror image of each other. And sometimes he wrote his notes backwards so people couldn't read them and stuff. Anyway, so there was in behind the scenes, the guy who did the theme song and soundtrack and stuff, he said because of that, he got the idea to make the theme song a palindrome, which I thought was really cool. To sort of tie into that theme of the way Da Vinci could do that. Oh, I was annoyed though. That was one, I got it on DVD, and I ordered it from Amazon, and my first DVD set was the transfer was terrible. It was all bubbled and stuff on the back, and my machine couldn't, it actually crashed my DVD player so bad that I had to unplug it and force the door open basically to get the disc back out because it was done. Or no, I had to unplug it, plug it back in, and immediately eject it. That was it, before it could load again, because as soon as it tried to load, it would just get completely stuck trying to load like a skipping record, and then it wouldn't respond to anything. It wouldn't, the eject button wouldn't work and stuff. Anyway, so obviously I returned it because it was unplayable, and then I ordered a replacement, and I got it and I put it in, and the same thing. And I turned it over and looked at the disc, and I swear, I think they shrink wrapped it and sent it back to me, because the bubble pattern, I mean, I didn't take a picture of it, but it sure looked the same as the previous one. It was, again, a terrible transfer. And I sent it back again, and then I didn't trust them, so I ordered it from someone else. And I said in my notes of my return, I said, did someone just shrink wrap this and give it back to me? Because, yeah. And, yeah, there was one, somebody had a picture, said they ordered a swim cap, and it had someone's hair in it. So obviously it wasn't new. Ew. My husband had the same thing. He ordered some laser engraving machine. Didn't work, sent it back, and he says, I swear I think they sent me the same one back. And I thought, really? But then I had the same thing with the DVDs, so I think he was right. I don't know. I said maybe sometimes when they do the returns, they don't really read if it's defective. They just assume someone didn't want it. So they just stick it back in the inventory, and then I don't know. I don't work there, so couldn't tell you. But I was not impressed. And then I had one, I returned something because it didn't work. The battery wouldn't hold a charge. And that was right when the strike happened. And I didn't even think about it. I just chose Canada Post as the return label option. Packaged everything up, dropped it in a mailbox, and then like the next day the strike happened. I was like, oh shoot. And they have a time limit that you have to send it back or you don't get your refund. So I ended up sitting there hoping that it would move in time. Thankfully it did. they went back to work, but they're still, for months, have been working on reaching an agreement, and mail has still been unreliable for months now. Slower, and things got lost. I had a late charge on a bill because I didn't realize that it hadn't arrived in time because I wasn't paying attention, and that is my own fault. I knew I should have looked, and I just didn't think about it, but that happened. And lots of stuff they're sending. They send you email reminders that you can't rely on the post right now because of that. They were trying to move, I've spoken about this before, they were trying to move it so that most people would have to go to the little, bunch of mailboxes with a key, and instead of door-to-door delivery, and people didn't like that, so they went on strike. But I think it's one of those things that's inevitable, and they're just kind of delaying it. And they did have an exception, so if you were someone who has difficulty getting to a mailbox, your limited mobility or something like that, you could apply, and they would still deliver to your door. So like for elderly people who can't easily make the walk to their mailbox, they would still be able to receive mail at home. It depends too where you live, because we lived in a really tiny town for a couple of years, and so there was no door-to-door delivery for anything. It all went to the central post office, which was the post office / convenience store. And let me see. All right. So I'm doing that one right there. I might actually just extend up and do these and come back down. I think that's what I will do, because I have another thread to come out the other side to do that bigger section there. Oops. Oh my gosh. Not having luck with knots today. There we go. Oh, actually, looks like I did the one, but not this one. Okay. All right, just, double checking with my grid lines, make sure everything matches. Yeah, looks like it. If I messed it up, I'll find it later. Right now it looks good to me, but you never know. Sometimes you can count and just not see it until later. That's what happened with my knitting. I kind of thought I was putting the decrease in the wrong place, but I stopped and I looked at it. I thought, no, that's correct. And then it was only after I had stitched like another 10 rounds afterwards that I went, no, it was not in the correct place. For some reason, it just wouldn't register in my brain. Oops. Well, don't do that. Hey, you suck. That's better. Okay. Oh, someone's come home for a minute. Must have forgot something. That was what I reminded them about. Yeah. They need to change the oil in my car needs changing, so I don't know whether it was my text that reminded them or he remembered on his own because it was pretty close, but yeah, it looks like it was my text that reminded him, so all good. Okay. All right. So as I said, there's some bigger blocks, but a bit of confetti here, so switching back and forth, so that does slow things down a little bit. Yeah, it's nice. My car gives me a warning when my oil's down to 15% of its life, and then we go do it. And that happened a couple of weeks ago, and I kept forgetting. I reminded him, and then he forgot, and then so and then it will tell you when it's down to 10. But every time you start up the car, it will display the oil's 15%, and then the oil's 10%, and then the oil's 5%. But I've never let it get down to 5%. I don't have to drive very far. It takes me 10 minutes to get to work, so it'll take a very long time to put mileage on that car. It's a 2009, but it's still got a lot of good life in it. It's been rear-ended twice and fixed twice. The last time they actually had to actually manufacture a whole back end for it because they don't make them anymore, and it's very hard to source. But apparently the insurance deemed it worth it to still fix it, which I was very glad, because I would have been sad if it was written off. And it unfortunately does not take very much to write off a car. I've had it since 2013. I've only ever had 2 cars because I was late to learning to drive. I finally got my license when I was 24. My husband used to change the oil himself, but he's getting older and crawling around under there is getting to be a little tougher, which I understand. So now we pay someone to do it. Oh, there was a video on AFV. A lady was trying to change the oil for the first time, and she got completely covered. And they did win the first prize, and somebody's like, well, that'll buy you some new clothes then, because they were destroyed. Oh dear. Oh no, I think that's wrong. Yeah, I'm parking that incorrectly. Should be right there. I bet some of you noticed. Okay, so I did that, and then I'm going to do this color, and then I can do some of these big, longer bits. Oopsie. Oh, I just realized I passed 290,000 total. Wasn't paying attention. Woohoo! And we're at 94.5%. So yeah, 3,000 and a bit stitches is 1%. So around 1,500 and some stitches is the 0.5%. And like I said, I've got 2 more sessions this month, I believe. I don't think that'll be a problem, even with my having less time to stitch this month. So I won't get any work done on my other firefly piece. I'm hoping next month I can. Although, as I said, the World Championships will be on at the end of the month, so there is that. We will see. Then there won't be any until October. Oh, did I do something wrong? 1, 2, 3. I think that looks right. Oh, no, maybe I did miss one. Yeah, I think I might have. Oops. I definitely pierced the fabric wrong there. That's not right. Yeah, I think I might have missed one here. But you know what? These colors are so similar, I'll just fudge it. So. Oh, I think this is where I missed it. Okay. Yeah, I think there should have been one here. Okay, so it was wrong. But you know what? It's so close, I don't really care. It's in a background area. Oh, hang on a minute. Let's take a boo here. So I'm actually looking more at what the navy blue should be. So we've got 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that should be colored in too. Yeah. Oh, silly me. I had a feeling that might have been wrong. So technically this one here should have been navy. Yeah. So it was wrong and my brain would not calculate it, I think. I knew something was off, but you know what? Close enough. So now this blob that remains is all correct. So good enough. Like I said, I've got one extra of this color here instead of the navy, but good enough. Yeah, tired. My husband has restless legs sometimes, and they were very restless last night. I just about kicked him out to go sleep in the guest room. He does take magnesium, and that usually helps, but some nights it's pretty bad. Or he'll do a Epsom salt bath, so the magnesium in there helps. I remember once when we were first married, and he was very restless enough. I said, "Are you going to sleep or are you going to dance?" So this color branches off. As you can see, there's one branch that kind of goes here and another one that goes there. So of course I'm going to work the leftmost branch of color first. So as I said, I did make a mistake there, and I don't worry so much because it's not in a main focal point. Like I said, your eye's going to be drawn more to this flower than it is going to be to the leaves and background below it. And like I said, those colors were pretty close. They're both very dark colors. I don't think it will be noticeable. It already isn't noticeable to me, so there's always one or two variations in these. I never do them perfectly because, well, I'm human. So where this other branch is right there is probably around where I'll cut it off. I might extend it out to the right a little bit because the color kind of goes that way. We'll see. I'll decide when I get there. And then I will move the whole thing over and continue on. There's a bit of bright pink fuzzy just trying to come through there. So let's coax it back over to the wrong side. Okay, and then, oops. So if you followed me for a while, you'll know I'll do this whole strand. I'll park one over here and I'll start a new one over for that branch there. Another fuzzy bit there. I like to catch them early because I find if I come up through that hole a couple of times, when it's pulled that strand forward, then trying to get it to go back afterwards is hard because it's been stitched through sort of more than once. Sometimes I'll be better with these really bright colors. Instead of pin stitching them, I'll draw them along the back so I don't have to deal with that as much, but I was lazy to do that this time. I find the pin stitches, they're faster and less awkward. I can do the drawing it along the back of the stitches from the front, but it is a bit more effort, and if I do it a lot, my fingers do get sore because you have a fair bit of resistance on the needle as you're pushing it back through the fabric, so there is that. Right. Oh, less than 1,000 stitches of this color left. Sweet. There was a lot to start with, that's for sure. said, I'm going to start another strand. Where it branches off. So if I did manage to get to 292,000, that would be about 6,000, which is what I've been kind of shooting for each month. Did manage about 150,000 stitches across all my projects last year. That was nice, I think. I think it was about 100,000 on this one, just a bit over. Oops. There we go. I have some really soft kind of fleece material here along the edges of my grime guards because I found sometimes otherwise my arm would rub up against the fabric, and if it was quite rough it could get a little sore. So I went to the fabric store and I dug it through the remnants and found this soft fleece for cheap. So I use that and it's nice. I want to like pet it all day. Because I was using felt before, but even that I found could get quite rough after a while and would pill. And this fabric is really soft. It'd be nice to make like stuffed animals out of. Oh goodness. It's my water machine. Sorry, it usually doesn't do that. I don't know why it suddenly started being loud. Cut it out, would you? Oh, that's gonna get irritating. Okay, hang on a minute. I'm going to go fix that because that's gonna drive me mad. So I'm just gonna pause here for a minute. All right, that's better. Oh, still loud, but at least it's not vibrating. I don't know why it suddenly did that. Every now and then, like, my husband will leave a glass on top of it, but like, the thing had been running for a while and hadn't made, and it suddenly just decided to make noise. I don't know why. Oh, he did that once. He was making this ringing sound, and I ran across the room to stop it. And I said, couldn't you hear that? He said, I could hear it, just it bothered me. I'm like, how? Buzzing, rattling sounds, they drive me, and repetitive sounds, they drive me completely nuts. Which really sucked when a few years ago I had an ear infection in one ear, and after it cleared up, it messed with my hearing, and so it was making a buzzing noise like Morse code in my ear for a while. That's awful. And I went to the doctor and he sent me to an ear, nose, throat specialist, and then he sent me to go have a hearing test to see. And of course, like, I actually got to see the specialist pretty quickly. Usually, you know, you have to wait weeks to months to sometimes over a year. And I actually got to see him like the next week, and then he sent me to the audiologist. That one took a while to get an appointment. And by the time I went to the audiologist, it was getting much better. And it had basically... And so by the time I went to see the ear, nose, throat guy again, because he sent me off to get the hearing test, he was basically gone. And the audiologist said that sometimes, because he said there's very slight hearing loss in the ear, that I had the problem with. But like very minimal. Basically, it's only a bit of loss compared to the right ear because my hearing is actually very acute, always has been. And he said sometimes when that happens, it's like your brain tries to compensate by making the hearing in that ear more sensitive so that you can sort of catch things you, and so unfortunately then that means you start hearing like your own heartbeat or whatever, your own blood pressure, that kind of thing, like can cause that. And then he said sometimes that kind of recompensates afterwards and goes back to baseline, which is pretty much what I think happened. And yeah, thankfully there's very occasionally, if I'm feeling kind of like I got a head cold, I'll hear a little tiny bit of buzzing in it again. But or if I'm in a really quiet room and I really pay attention, I can hear it. But other than that, it faded, thank goodness, because it was driving me mad. Sometimes it sounded kind of like a microphone when the wind blows across it, or it was, like I said, like this buzzing, like it was Morse code or something. It was, and that was the worst thing I said, was because it wasn't consistent. It was intermittent, so I couldn't ignore it like you could with, white noise or something. And so that was driving me totally mad. But thankfully, like I said, thankfully it cleared up. So I didn't lose my mind, because he was saying the next thing might have been if there was still fluid back there, they might have put an ear tube in to drain it. But thankfully that became unnecessary. And yeah, that was when I started using brown noise at night to sleep, so that because I used to use earplugs, and then earplugs meant I could still hear that, and so then I used brown noise to kind of drown that out. And so even though the sound in my ear basically went away, I got used to it. I actually found it more effective than earplugs for drowning out noise. Yeah, actually, it was one of my viewers who helped me out, because I said I couldn't do white noise because my brain still like processes it. It doesn't like fade into the background. And then they mentioned brown noise, and I'm like, I didn't know that was a thing. And apparently there's all sorts of different pitches, because the brown noise is a lower pitch, and there's like pink, orange, all sorts of different. You can search them up, and that was the one. It sounds to me almost like a deep rumbly waterfall, or somebody has compared it to like a jet engine when you're on a very long flight. And so I was very, very thankful for the suggestion, because it made a big difference. All right, we'll see how long this thread lasts. It may run out just before I run out of stitches. Yeah, can't win them all. So I'm going to do those. Okay, I think I might be able to squeak those last 2 stitches out of this strand. That would be nice. So I'm kind of stitching over the grid line here, but whatever. I can still see bits of it on the other side, so I know pulling it out won't be an issue. Yeah, I had someone saying they were worried it would get really stuck in there, but I said, no, I think I've stitched 4 pieces using this thread, or at least 3. I think this is the 4th, but I've finished 3 using that Sulky thread, and it never had an issue. It slides right out. I actually did a couple where I used ordinary sewing thread, and it can be done, but I don't recommend it. It was really tough to remove. There were some times I had to actually like split the sort of the separate fibers of it and like pick at it until it would release, and it was a big pain. But this, I haven't had any issues. You can't pierce it with a needle, so it just slides out easily. I know some people like to use fishing line, but I personally couldn't find any that was skinny enough that I was worried wouldn't distort the holes on my fabric, because obviously you don't want that. It would, you don't want to be left with enlarged holes every 10 stitches. I'm sure there's probably skinnier than I was able to find fishing line, but yeah, I decided to use this thread instead, and I've been very happy with it. And you can get all sorts of different colors too if you want. So I did manage to get those 2 stitches. It's always nice when it works out that way. There's a tiny knot in this strand. I could feel it when I was threading, but it's so small I think I can get away with it. Okay. Alrighty, so as I said, leaves, and then this is where some more flowers at the bottom come up. I'm gonna probably just do the leaf part for now, and we'll do the flower part later. So I've got 3 strands of this color kind of parked in this area. So there's a little one here. Yeah, it's not very long. There's another little one here, and this one, whoops, is also a little one. So I'm actually probably going to have to add another strand because they're all sort of about to run out. So that does happen. So I'm going to do this one here. This is sort of the last big squares that I pin stitch in. I won't do it in the bottom one so that it won't show past the edge. Okay, and again I've got more than 1 strand. That's decent length. That is going to run out, which is what I think I planned on. So this one will do these, and then I think I will tie it off, and the other strand will take over. Oh, actually, I realized it's long enough to do a couple more, so I will. I always like to get sort of every last bit I can out of the thread before I tie it off. So again, there's 2 strands of this color, that one there, this one here. There we are. All right, and again, there's a strand up here, but I think I can use this one too. So I'm going to do those 3. I think I'll do sort of the tail end of this run of color starting right there. See if I can get all those stitches done with this strand. I think it'll be just enough. Oh, it'll be a tight squeeze, but I think I'll manage. Oh, closing in on 200. That's where I like to stop, 150 to 200, depending, of course, on sort of how much confetti there is. Yeah, I think we'll do one more stitch with this strand, and then the other one is going to take over. Almost 200, so we'll do a little bit more and kick us over 200. Okay, do kind of this. That'll take me well over 200. Okay, so there, 212. So did a pretty good progress today. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you here next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.